Welcome everyone. Good evening. Welcome to the students, mentors, to this Cornwall College Alumni of South Florida Planning and Career Information Session. Tonight, we have a distinguished Cornwall College past student as our guest speaker. Some meeting protocols, please mute your microphone during the presentation, as sometimes the noise from your background may interrupt this presentation. Also, feel free to use the chat as a means of active talk during the presentation. I'll be responding to the different chat messages. If you want to submit a question to the presenter, please wait until after the presentation, or you can also write your question in the chat, right? After the presentation, if you do need to get a copy of it, you can just leave your email address in the presentation and I'll go ahead and send it out afterwards. At this time, I'd like to ask Philip Wallace. Philip is the president of the Cornwall College Alumni-Association-of-South-Florida to introduce tonight's speaker. Philip.
All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us for this career talk. As Robert just mentioned, we have a distinguished Cornwallian who has joined us today to communicate with you guys, just to give you a perspective in terms of career and advice and college planning and so on. His name is David McBean. Sorry. David, like I said, is a very distinguished Cornwallian. He holds the Bachelor of Science in Electrical and Computer Engineering from the University of West Indies and the PhD degree in Engineering Science from University of Oxford on a Rhodes Scholarship. So he's actually the last Rhodes Scholar that graduated from Cornwall College. He also received extensive short course training in management, including a diploma in advanced executive management from the Kellogg Business School, Mona Institute of Business. Dr. David McBean is currently the executive director of the Mona School of Business and Management. On behalf of the Cornwall College Alumni-Association-of-South-Florida, I'd like to welcome formally Dr. McBean. Thank you, sir, for permitting to provide this talk. And we'll turn the floor over to you without further ado.
Thank you very much, Philip. Where do you think that picture?
That is blackmail. Yes. That's a real blackmail.
No, that picture is a decent picture. Here is comb that looks serious. So thanks for that kind introduction, and I'm happy to be able to give back to Cornwall College. So, Cornwall was very good for me. I'm one of the last generation that actually boarded at Cornwall College. So I lived at Cornwall College. So all those places you guys think about, from Fairfield straight back to the boundaries with Canterbury, that was my home for 5 years. And so I owe a lot to Cornwall. And when people ask me about Cornwall College, I rarely start by talking about academics, which is one of the things I think I want to impress on you this evening. That while you're at school, you're supposed to be learning about life. And yes, we all have to do well at school or whatever, but it is your relationships and your attitude and your aptitude that will help you in any of your careers. So tonight I'm supposed to give you career advice and career planning. So I want to thank all those who turned up on time, because that's one of the most important things in life for your career, whether you're running your own business as an business person or as an entrepreneur or you're working for somebody, turn up on time and turn up with your best foot forward. And tonight I want to talk less about what you plan to do and more about two things, aptitude and attitude. And then I'll finish with striving for excellence. So I'll tell you a little story about myself. All through school, I was supposed to be a doctor, as Philip and Egbert could tell you, because I was in the sciences, I was doing well, so of course, naturally I should go be a doctor. And if I was doing other stuff, I maybe would be a lawyer, but Cornwall being strong in the sciences, that's what the channel did to. Foolishly or wisely, I decided in lower 6, which is what now, grade 12. I don't think they use lower 6 anymore. But grade 12, that I really had a different mindset. I wanted to be more of an engineer and less of a doctor. So I went and I begged the lady at UWI to change from applying to medicine and going to engineering. So, mostly you do your first, your second, your third choice. And your second choice is supposed to be in case you don't get your first choice. And then as now, medicine was always harder to get into than engineering. So she took one look at me and said, well, I'll allow you to change on one condition, that engineering is your first choice and medicine is your second choice. I looked at her and said, what? But if I don't get the grades for engineering, I won't be in the university. She said, yeah, but that's the choice you had. I taught one thing about focusing the mind. So right there, gentlemen, I knew that if I wanted to go to university, I had to succeed. No excuses, nothing about, which bereavement was in my family. I had moved to Kingston and I was having difficulty adjusting socially or whatever it was. There was no excuse. I had to get it done. So the first thing about your career choice is no matter what you choose, remember, you don't have an option for failure. No employer is interested if you're poor, whether you studied by fluorescent or high intensity LED or home sweet home. You're not interested in that. You come, you're supposed to deliver and do your best at what you choose to do. The second thing was, having done engineering and started engineering, I migrated into different things. So what you think your career will be, so remember, I begged somebody not to be a doctor, to be an engineer, and I had to get the grades. It turns out, luckily, I got grades good enough to get into engineering and medicine, but I chose medicine. I chose engineering, sorry. And from engineering, I've gotten into a lot of different careers. I've run a media house, I've been IT manager at an airline. Lots of interesting things. I know I head up a business school. So the second thing that you have to remember is that you're likely to change your careers, especially in today's world. I was a little bit ahead of my time. My mother used to look at me and shake her head and say, Rolling Stones gather no moss. But nowadays, people accept that you change careers throughout your life. And what is it that enabled me to move from an engineer to managing a business school to be the CEO of a media company or any other interesting things that I did? I just reference them not to, and I hope you don't take it. It's not to brag about what I did. I'm just sharing my experiences with you, right? Because the one thing we learned at Cornwall is you don't brag. That's the kiss of death, and I hope that tradition still continues. One was my attitude and looking for things I was good at. So I was lucky that I was trained as an engineer, because in engineering, you have a few things you have to look at. You have a problem, you identify a problem, you design the solution, you implement the solution, and you check if the solution works. That's great for engineering, but it's also great for life in general. So in making my different career moves, even when confronted with new situations, I always went back to that core principles. And why it helped, again, I was blessed with very good teachers from primary school straight into high school. And what they did was they challenged me to think. So it's more important as you think about your career, as you think about leaving school, going into university. University is about testing your thinking. They call it all sorts of fancy things today. Critical thinking skills, being logical thinking in different dimensions, all the different things you'll hear. But it's really about stepping back and assessing a situation, because what you started to do, you may have to change for whatever reasons, different interests, because it's hard. Most of you will be aged between, I guess, 16 to 19, 15 to 19, based on where you are, either as fifth form or going into I'm sorry, I keep using these old terms, so familiar with me. So it's grade what now, Philip? Grade 11?
And grade 11 is sixth form, yeah. And
Grade
sixth
11
form
to
is grade 12.
And I should know this because I'm in education. I know what all habits I have. So grade 11 to grade 13. And it's a wonderful age because you're fearless and you know everything. And we can't tell you that you don't know everything. We've also been there, but it's a rough age to be trying to decide what you're going to be doing for the rest of your life. And believe me, if you keep yourself in good shape, you'll live 4 times your current age, at least, right? So think about it, that even before you've experienced life, you're being asked to do this. And in today's world, you're going to change. So it's very, very important that you focus on how you do things. You open your mind to learn things, to challenge yourself, to not be afraid of exploring new opportunities, but do what you're doing well. When you choose something, do it to the best of your ability. Go hard at it. Be competent. Because again, whatever you're doing, you have to be able to meet a challenge. You have to be able to go through rough times. You have to study when you're tired. Even if you go into academia, I remember doing research, and the amount of times I went the wrong way, it was frightening, the amount of mistakes, because you're trying to push new boundaries. But then one day something goes, and you spend 3-4 years researching something, and the truth is you solve it in 6 months or less. But the point is, it's the failures that guide you to your success, right? So, I know I'm not giving you the traditional career talk. Man, what are you doing? You're doing sciences, you want to be a doctor, an engineer, you want to get into social media. You will have a lot of guidance on that, right? And you will know that. So I'm not discounting that aspect, because clearly you would have chosen your subjects because you had an interest or an innate ability. So it still doesn't make sense saying, I want to be a nuclear scientist, but all I'm doing is accounts and principles of business and things which are as far from the East as the West. You may think you want to become a rocket scientist or a nuclear scientist, and you do the sciences, but you decide to switch later in life, and that's okay. So a bit of focus and channeling towards what you think you have an interest in and what you excel at is absolutely what you should do, and you should choose there. But the core for me is maintaining an open mind. But when you choose this field, do some research about it. So you want to be a lawyer, why? Because I talk a lot and people say I'm argumentative, but is that enough to be a lawyer? You have to know the law, you have to be able to research, you have to be able to read books, you have to go into a courthouse and know when not to talk versus when to talk, which is about as important for your client. So do you really want to do that? And then what aspect of the law are you interested in? Do you want to defend people who have been criminally charged? Do you want to do commercial law and structure deals, or sell or do real estate? So those are the sort of practical things that you have to do for your career. And then the other thing I always say to people, find out what it is that will make you excel in your career. Because whether you decide to keep your career or not, if you don't have a passion for excellence, for doing well, it's going to slow you down. Anybody can have talent. In fact, lots of people have talent. It's what you do with the talent, or where you want to go with the talent, which will get you there. Some of my colleagues on this call will tell you I was reasonably good at table tennis.
Very good, as a matter of fact.
But I know people who were more talented than I was, and I was more talented than some people, but I had to train. So I'd beat people who would remind me they used to beat me, or that they're more talented than me, and I'd nod and say yes, but I had the trophies. And to this day, they'll tell me they were better than me, and I'm fine with them saying they're better than me, but I have the trophies. So the point is, no good you're saying who you're better than in whatever sphere of life, including your career. Do you have the trophy? And the trophy don't necessarily mean the money. It's what you set out to achieve, right? So for me, I've come back to education because I think at this stage of my life, it's a good way to give back and to pull together all of my experiences. So I have colleagues who make much more money than I do, but that's fine. My balance and what I want to do and what I'm excelling at, I'm comfortable with. So the next piece of career advice is set your own goals. Don't define yourself necessarily by somebody else. Because sometimes people are way more talented than you are, or work much, much harder than you do for whatever reason. And these are the things that drive you mad. So, that's sort of some of the lessons I want to leave you with. So we're coming now to attitude and aptitude. For those of you who will eventually end up working for other people, even if you work for yourself, you have to impress your customers. Attitude is how you relate to people, and that's very important. So in former lives, when I was in the private sector, I had to hire people. Good grades get you into the door. Attitude gets you the job. So you will hear a lot of parents complaining that the children went to school and they had 10 subjects and they're sitting at home, or they have a degree. Lots of companies have vacancies they'd like to fill. They're not going to fill it with somebody who has a wrong attitude, who's going to be disruptive. How do you look when you go into an interview? If you're going to work for a conservative place, for goodness sake, don't go in there with designs shaved into the side of your head, right? And your pants competing with your underwear for how low it is. Those are things people note, and they're polite with you, and you may not get the job they want. But if you go into an entertainment place, like, for example, when I used to be at CVM, and we need somebody to run entertainment or be the face of entertainment, sure. Somebody turning up in a jacket and tie and being unable to navigate the way around the most popular artists will not get that job. So your attitude has to be matched to the It's not going to end well. The idea that you're going to change them, unless you're a genius, which means you fall in the 1 in a million grouping, it's not going to work. Right? Aptitude. I'll describe it this way. We once hired a young lady for customer service at the place I work. She didn't have an aptitude for being patient and kind to people. Intelligent, but she'd lose it. We had to let her go. She thought it was unfair because she railed off to us what her qualifications were and things, but she just didn't have the aptitude to do that job. So when you go out in life, do be honest with yourself, right? And sometimes it might be hard because you want to get a job, but do you really have the aptitude there? Because in your career, the biggest way to progress a career is you're selling yourself. So even if it's hard at the beginning, remember, the biggest recommendation for your next best role is you. Nobody else, you. Who you are, right? What your character is. Who you project. I'm fortunate now to interact with a lot of young people. I'll say to you, the world owes you nothing. Nobody owes you any favors. You don't get what you deserve. You get what you work for, and you get what you demand. What you deserve is an opinion, what you get is a fact, right? So I'll close here and maybe take some questions because I think that's more useful in a session like this than me trying to impart too many things to you. I'll close by saying that you come from a proud tradition, an excellent school, one of the best schools in the country. And you have an edge over most people because you're a graduate of Cornwall College. That means as a brand, you are going to get doors open in places that schools without this reputation don't get. Take advantage of that. There are lots of old boys in interesting places. You'll hear about some of us you don't know. So you have to remember that. Use your advantages. One of your biggest advantages right now is you went to Cornwall College. You have an advantage in the teaching you got, the values that you got, and that must reflect in your career because you will find that's what will separate you from the crowd. Right? So I'll pause here and I welcome any questions. Don't be shy. If I don't hear any questions, I'll pick on people and ask you what you're doing and where. So I turn it back over to you. Thanks very much.
Let me help with the first one, Froggy, that I can break the ice for some of the students who are extremely shy. A lot of them are thinking that, based on how well they did at what I used to call O-levels, is what is going to determine what they should do going into lower 6 and then into 6th form. And then they're not quite sure if the selection based on their passes is where they should be headed into a career. What would be one of your recommendations for something like that, especially the fact that you like both medicine as well as engineering, and then at some point you decided on something?
So I'd say follow your passions, follow what you want to do. And sometimes you're not sure. So let's say you wanted to do, you like the sciences, but you're not sure where it is. So let's take going into UWI. So you may sign up for the Faculty of Science and Technology, okay? And you might say, okay, I want to do sciences, so I'll do the sciences. But I'm not sure. So you can mix and match subjects, and that is much easier to do So if you think you still want to dabble in other subjects, by all means, do the other subjects if you can. So in my time, it was hard for us to mix. Some of the courses didn't even exist, right? The different businesses, business options, the computer science options. Changing isn't as hard as in my time. So when you get to university, so if you go overseas, a lot of places have what they call a liberal arts degree. So the US system is that you do a general first degree and then you specialize. In the Jamaican system, you specialize early, but even if you come into the US system, you can do minors. So we have a lot of people who their main degree is science, but they might do a minor in business, in management studies. You know, you can do a minor in cultural studies or philosophy. So you're not as locked in based on your CSEC and your CAPE results. Most disciplines, apart from the very specialized ones, the core thing is requiring good passes in math and English, because that's a foundation. And as I say English, I want to say something to the young folk. I'm fluent in 4 versions of Patois, along with English. Yeah? Westmoreland, Montego Bay, Trelawney, well, Lower Trelawney to be specific. I noticed I said Montego Bay, not St. James, and you guys should appreciate the difference. What's spoken in John's Hall is not the same as what's spoken in Garland's, right? And Kingston really is broken English. It's not Patois as those of us with deep world roots, no. But English is the language of commerce, and that will get you ahead. If you're not fluent in English, practice. Get the first aid in English. Listen to the BBC. Set aside some time to practice. You know what the Patois was for the playground? English was for class, and that's how we learned to be fluent and to distinguish. The divisions are not as sharp today, but that's what will separate you. There's nothing wrong with Patois. I grew up in the country. It's a wonderful, expressive language for describing everyday life. But the reality, English is a language that millions, hundreds of millions of Chinese and Indians fight to learn every year so that they can get ahead in world commerce. So that tells you something. So whatever you're doing, very essential.
Thank you.
Young men, I'm not hearing about it. So Mario.
I'm still here listening. Just...
Oh, Charlie?
Yeah, man, I'm there, man.
Hi, what's up?
What's up?
So Mario Smith, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm 19 years old. I'm interested in the science, anything to do with the environment or anything scientific, biology, to be more precise. I'm currently at a crossroads now, considering my next set of options available to me.
Are you planning to go to UA?
So I plan to, my plan is to take some off and just work for just work for a year just to get some experience. My mother managed to get an opening at the call center for me.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I just really want to experience the working way for myself. So I think I'll take a year off and earn some money and use it to help pay for university.
So I'll give you some advice.
Yes.
It is hard to get back on the academic train after taking time off. Sometimes 1 year turns into 2. So I'd advise you to think.
I've acknowledged this already, sir. I thought to myself, I don't think I'll be able to handle working and going to school at the same time.
So remember, even though people shy away from it a lot, consider student loan as an option, because a lot of times if you go to
Sir, I've been told by more than one individual that that's not a very good option for my economic status.
No, but well, and I can talk to you a little bit more about that without going into the details, but I just said generally, right? And I'm available to talk. There are a lot of options, and I understand sometimes why, we'd be pushed to work, but there are ways, and there are ways to help, and if you can get in, and there are grants and scholarships and things that can help you, because you'll be going into an area that's booming, the environment.
I'm aware of that part.
Yeah, so if this is what the network is about, and maybe where we can help, where it may seem like a stretch to you, and I can't comment on the particular circumstances, but certainly if you can, I would encourage you, to make the push. But as I said before, I can get you details, and then we can talk further and see how we can facilitate. All right.
All right. Okay, sir.
All right.
Good evening, sir. Could you hear me?
Yes, Mr. How you pronounce your first name?
Ashani.
Ashani.
Ashani. Yeah.
Okay, sir. So since grade 9, I've developed a passion for technical drawing. It was on the very first class that we learned that we were going to construct angles without protractors. I found it fascinating, and that's where it all started. Yeah, I really liked it. Right, I did well too at the time, grade 9. So here I'm in grade 10, right? But I realized that okay, so I'm in 10 engineering one, right? I'm doing the mechanical aspect of it, right? What I wanted to do at first was the house part, like use the computer aided designs, for buildings and those stuff, right? I realized that I'm working with machines, tool parts and all these things, right? But and ever since then, I found out that I won't be doing the house part. I've been kind of drifting away from, my passion for it has been fading. So what could you say to me, sir? Because I really wanted to do the house part, but I realized that actually doing the mechanical part.
Okay.
And it's like I'm losing interest for technical drawing.
So I missed I dropped out for the middle part. So tell me but what I caught was that you fell in love with technical drawing, right?
Yeah, yes, sir. Since grade 9.
Losing interest in aspects of it.
Yeah, yes, sir. Because I prefer the housing part, sir, but that's not the part. That's not the course really I'm taking. It's a mechanical one.
The mechanical, okay. What do you want to do with technical drawing? Is the first question I'd ask you.
At first, there must be a CD drafter to deal with the housing and the building aspect, not the mechanical part.
Okay. So you want to be a draftsman or an architect, right?
Yeah, yes, sir.
All right. So the fact that you deal with the mechanical part now doesn't prevent you from pursuing that career path, in tertiary education. because believe it or not, I never did any technical drawing before I went into engineering. So I had to, my first year, I had to, as I said, whistle and ride. I was learning what I was doing. And that was true of a couple of guys who would have done the civil option. So I would say don't lose interest. You may actually find that doing the more mechanical part of it will help you later. Yeah?
So you're saying to me that go along with it, and after school I could, learn more about the housing part.
Yeah, because you're barely starting now. So if you were to pursue this, so that and I guess maybe UTech might be a better option for you than UA, or going overseas. Just hearing you speak about what you're interested in, so maybe the Caribbean School of Architecture or somewhere like that. So yes, sometimes a lot of things that you do now, you don't understand why you do it. So that's maybe 20% of the things you do which you don't like. But there is essential. It's like when I was learning calculus, I was like, calculus, what's the use of this? But when I was doing research, I realized I had to know how to do all sorts of advanced math to get some things. So any knowledge you learn, remember it is useful. Even to win an argument with your wife.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Sorry, I gave you bad advice. You can never win an argument with your wife.
I was gonna correct you, Perspective.
Yeah, Alton, are you there? You had a question?
Yes, sir, I am here. Okay, good night, everyone. I have a question. For persons, or specifically speaking, Cape students to study in Canada after finishing their exams, what are the steps that we should take in order to make this dream a reality? Because I have attended some seminars in the past. However, they were quite ambiguous with their information because they never really specified it to students who are doing Cape or students who are in Jamaica overall. They gave general information like what you can get online. But I want to know, like, being a student in Jamaica and wanting to study abroad, well, in my case, I would love to study in Canada. What are the steps that I should take in order, to make this a reality?
Right. So I can't give you specifics about Canada and Cape currently. I know a bit more about the US with SATs and applying for scholarships. But generally, I'd say focus less on going. Sorry, let me say this another way. You want to go to Canada because you like Canada, or you want to go to Canada because there are ties you have to Canada that would make you.
Well, in my case, a large proportion of my family are moving to Canada, and some of my family over there say, Alton, you should come, and there are a lot of opportunities over here. And I was saying I think it's a good move to make, but however, I'm a bit lost on how to make it there.
So I tell you how to get information, which is a skill I think we need to encourage more, not just in our young people, just generally. So you would have a set of things that you want to do, right, in Canada. So let's say your family are migrating to Toronto, okay?
Yes, sir.
And let's say you wanted to do logistics and supply chain, right? I would do a search for the best schools for logistics and supply chain management in Toronto. Pick one of them, write to their admissions and say, I am a student from Jamaica and doing CAPE subjects. Do you accept this for matriculation? Is there something equivalent to SATs for the US I would need to do? How do I apply as a foreign student?
I
Right?
see.
Because you'll always get general information, but it's the specifics. It always comes down to the specifics. Now, once you get that information from one of the institutions, it's likely to be similar. It may change depending on the discipline you want to do or where the college is, but at least that will give you more than the general information, which you have said is not more so helpful to you now, but you know specifically, for example, what do they accept CAPE to be the equivalent for in the Canadian system? And what I would also do simultaneously is ring up the Canadian High Commission and they're likely to be able to point you, if they don't know the information, to point you to somebody who could give you some advice. The last thing I'd say to you is there is an old boys chapter in Toronto. I'm sure we can find Charlie, one of your namesake not up there?
Yeah,
Yes.
my exact name is and Clark and Clark, your brother as well. So
Yes.
Yes, the Clarks are everywhere. I forget about that.
everywhere, yeah.
Yes. All right. So I hope that helps. But so use the network and use your own initiative as well. All right?
So I should contact the chapter that's in Toronto.
Come on, these gentlemen can give you a name or names, or we can easily find out somebody who knows the answer.
Yeah, we can take care of that for sure. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
No problem.
Alton, just remind me and I'll go ahead and get the contact information for you and send it over, all right?
Yes, sir.
All right, any other questions, or I must pick on some other?
I have a question.
Yes.
So, I'm leaving high school and I see all my other friends, getting jobs and, have all kinds of money. They can buy a car, they have a girlfriend and so forth, and they're doing well, they're doing well. I'm a bright student. I'm doing well, I passed a couple of subjects and so forth, right? I am in 11th grade. What should I do? Should I go to sixth form? Should I go to work a little bit? What do you recommend? Sometimes I get jealous by seeing, all my friends when they leave Cornwall, they're going to workforce and they're making so much money and they're doing very well, What's your recommendation to me as a student?
What you think is a lot of money is really not a lot of money, first of all, right? I'm a big believer in education. Charles, was that you, Charles, laughing?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, what you think is a lot of money then? So you're giving up a lot of money in the future for some relative small change now. And I can say, so for the old boys you see here are all fairly successful people by any metric in terms of what they achieve, things they do, fulfillment, and we earn relatively well and have earned relatively well. And most of us have done it through education. So what I do, I like to give people stats. Your chances of success, whether as an entrepreneur, a business person, or working for somebody, rises exponentially the more education you have. The more education you have is the more knowledge you have, and the better choices you're able to make. We can tell you stories about calling names of many of our friends who went to go work full time. And we know the attraction because we used to look on them, and especially the number of girls they have would rise exponentially, right, Charles? But you know, it's a funny thing. You'll find that as you get a little bit older in life, a lot of things come naturally to you that you thought were out of your reach. So I'll always encourage you to do education. I'll share a very personal story that many people, even my good friends, don't fully know. So as a good student, my dad died before I took my final O-levels, right? But I didn't know because they never told me that he had died. So they waited until I finished exam. And I just made and I've been sick for a while. So I just made a decision that, boy, and I'm pressuring my old lady, to find something to do. And the best decision she ever made was looking at me and saying, what? No. You're going straight into sixth form. Don't pass, go. And then Cornwall had lost the sixth form at that time. So it was just this weird thing where not only I moved to Kingston, one of the most barbaric places we could think of at that time. I moved from boarding to have to go in a pack-up JS bus to go to school. Sweaty and, just hard. Nothing I'd ever experienced. But when I look back, I wouldn't swap that to go and try and do work. I know my friends who went and do work, and some of them have succeeded, some of them have, but most of them, the odds, when you look at the odds, those of us who have continued in education have fared a lot better than those who haven't. Even if you're doing sports, for those of you who may be athletes, you get an education. Because if you look at 4,000 kids go to champs every year, 60 of them get a scholarship. Maybe 5 of them will end up being able to earn from professional athletes. And once every 3 years, we produce somebody the equivalent of a Bolt or a Shellyan. Now I can name a lot of doctors, engineers. We must tell you about, you said we don't celebrate our excesses, remember, our successes. Remember we told you that at Cornwall, we kind of, humility is a good thing. But I'm proud of my friend Charles Gordon. Right? Right? I'm proud of my friend Greg Clark. So when COVID is over, I'm going up to Florida because my friend Charles Gordon needs to take me at a slight speed above the speed limit down a certain highway. Right? And I think that's, so to answer your question, I think that's one of the things we don't promote enough to the youngsters, that getting an education leads to a very rewarding and successful life professionally, but also you get good monetary rewards. And we leave them to be looking at the scammers and the druggists and all sorts of people that have a very short shelf life anyway. And yeah, so I'll preach it. I'm fine. I think I live in a decent house and drive a nice car, and I can afford that, to buy food occasionally. So But young men, yes, we should all send ask Charles to go outside and take a picture of his garage and tell you about education.
It's raining here.
Go ahead, Janori. Go ahead.
I was asking him what brand was that vehicle. Give us a little hint of what's in the garage.
I tell you what,
Yeah, Toyota, yeah.
no, it's not a Toyota January. It's a souped up VW.
Okay, I'll be waiting for that picture. Okay, that was the real question I wanted to ask. Okay, I came a little bit late for unavoidable reasons, but I don't know if you covered this already, but I was wondering, what's your thoughts on loan? Say for instance, a student.
On what? Sorry, thoughts on what?
Loans.
Loans, student loans.
Yes.
Look, I'm a fan of investing in yourself. Okay. We condition in Jamaica to think loans are a bad thing. Loans are not a bad thing. Loans help you to acquire things that move you forward at a faster pace than if you try to save. So for example, unless you're very, very wealthy, you will take out a mortgage to buy a house. That's a loan. Investing in your education is a wonderful thing, right? Because if you look, for example, the difference in a starting salary between a graduate and a university graduate and a high school graduate, it's huge, and it only gets wider over time. So the student loans are manageable. They're making them even more manageable. I encourage anybody, if that's what's gonna take you over the hump to get your degree, do it. Right? Well, I mean, I was fortunate to get scholarships, but I have friends who took student loans and they just don't regret it. It's just something that I'd tell you 10 times out of 10, if that's what it takes to get you over, do it, you know? And remember, you know, we don't preach that so much these days, but there's a thing called sacrifice.
That's true.
And it's not just for your parents to sacrifice for you. You have to sacrifice for yourself. You know, in the same way, I have to sacrifice for my children. I expect them to sacrifice for themselves, not for me. So, you know, you have to realize that sometimes the people you're asking to help you along themselves had to take loans at some point to help themselves. So that's what I'd say about loans. Yeah.
I was hoping that you like touch on the whole, there's this idea that society has pushed out there about the interest rates of loans. Like what happened to them even after they're finished with college and university. The loans are like ticks in their back. That's just a way that they put it.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I've also had, that's also one of my main concerns, sir. I've recently talked with someone. I'm not going to disclose his name, but he has to be at least 40 and still paying off student loans. That's one of the deterrents. That's what I fear. I'm going to spend the rest of my life, or a portion of the rest of my life,
So
paying
it's
off student.
right. So I don't know the circumstances of that person.
Me neither, sir.
But I can tell you what the typical experience is, and there are outliers. So by the way, I have a mortgage. I still have a mortgage, and I think my mortgage has about 10 years left to run right now. But my mortgage has become manageable over time, more manageable because I can earn more. It's the same thing with the student loan. So I don't know why that person would have been carrying a student loan for so long, right? But let me work the math for you. A typical high school graduate would only earn $1 million. So I'm talking about the Jamaican situation here, not necessarily the US situation, where that's a different discussion, where sometimes you choose colleges that are horribly expensive and the math don't work out, right? So let me concentrate on the Jamaican situation. You may get a student loan to cover tuition and maybe a little bit of your living expenses. So that's 300,000 a year, roughly. Call it, you take $1 million in loans, and they put a moratorium on it. If you come out as a graduate, you're earning, for the most part, in excess of $1 million. And generally you came late, but one of the things I was saying, a lot of graduates don't get the jobs that they should get, even though there are vacancies, because of their attitude. So interviewing skills, which I'm sure the old boys will cover or have covered if they haven't covered yet. I'd urge everybody to look at that. How you present yourself is sometimes even more important than what's on the paper. But typically, you come out to university, you'll be earning $1.5 to $2 million, and that only grows over time, right? So you may come out with $1 million debt. It might be rough for the first year or two, right? But after year 3, you're gonna see the difference in your opportunities, your life. And today it's a global world. So you have opportunities to stay in Jamaica and work for an overseas company. And your income gets exponential. Again, I don't know about individual circumstances, but one of the things we are bad at in Jamaica is making wise decisions about money. So I was in my 30s before I got what's considered any kind of expensive car, because I took a decision that was my priority for spending, but I had friends who spent and spent and spent. So it's not how much you earn necessarily, it's how much you save and invest and what you spend on. You know? And you really have to sit down and say, okay, what do I want long term? So you have to think in 5-year blocks. So I've got a student loan, it sets me up for life. I'm going to go out there and get the best opportunities I can. And I might not be able to go to Pier 1 every night when it reopened after COVID, right? I may not be like my friend down the road who managed to have 4 different girlfriends and keeps all of them well entertained. What's my focus? Right? And that's part of the equation with loans. The second thing is, and this one is going to sound harsh, but I believe in being harsh. You're a Cornwall boy, so you know about it. Society owes you nothing. So if you want an education, society is already investing 80% of the cost of your education to educate you. And if a loan is what it takes to invest in your future, I would throw it back to you. If you don't think that it's worth that investment, then that's fine. But the odds are you're likely to regret it. And I'm just being candid with you guys. We've been to school, we have seen people who have made decisions to defer education or they're not taking loans. Lots of us who you may look up to and say, I want to be like that. We took student loans, right? And if you never qualify for student loan, your parents might go to some family member or friend to borrow money for your education that had to be paid back. So loans, spending a little time on this, but loans are an investment to yourself. People take loans to get a car, to get a house. And education, to me, is the best investment you can make in yourself. Okay? So
To add to that, David, sometimes the loans motivate you to work even harder because you have something you have to pay back.
correct, correct, correct. So you know, so for a lot of us, the end of a lot of what people see at this stage of our lives, and we can talk to you about that based on where we are at the stage of life, hasn't just come out of our earnings and things. We have decided to take a chance. You know, I can tell you stories about the first house, the first apartment. You know, and as I say, it's choices. You may buy the apartment and you can't furnish it fully. You may decide that, boy, that's going out once a month instead of 4 times a month. So those are the choices that we make. The loans you have available, and the student loans are getting better in terms of interest rates. Can't say it enough, please. You know, take advantage. Do not make fear of a loan allow you to not advance your education.
Yeah, I think we have a question from Antoine Mitchell. Go ahead, Antoine.
All right, yes, sir. Good evening again, everyone. All right, so basically, based on my research and the program that I like to go into is actual biotechnology. It has full-time and part-time. I was just wondering if it's advisable to do the part-time, you know, when I'm doing the I think the full-time, because I'm doing CAPE, the full-time is actually 3 years at UWI, and the part-time is 4.
So working and going to school. I mean, only you can answer that in terms of your capabilities. I generally have great admiration for people who work and go to school because I don't think I could have done it and still do as well as I can. So always ask yourself, why do you want to do it part-time versus doing it full-time? Right? Is it that, for example, you're going to be working in the field and therefore you think that what you're doing complements it? It may be financial, right? So again, you have to do the math. Is it worth it? And well, I've spoken a lot about aptitude and attitude. Doing well at your chosen endeavor is the first thing that gets you in the door. So you have to ensure that you give yourself the best opportunity to do that. Typically, it's full-time. But as I said, it depends on your own particular set of circumstances. But what we've seen is that part-time students, not all of them, but a lot of them struggle trying to juggle the demands of work and going to school. And invariably, there's always some clash where work is demanding that you turn up when there's an important lab or lecture to advance your learning.
All right, yes, sir. And another question. So for instance, you, for your first year, because you know, due to lack of finance, you'll have to do part-time for the first year, and then you do well for your first year at university, and then you get a scholarship. Are you able to like change your program to a full-time?
I don't know the specifics about biotech, but a lot of times it is possible, and they may ask you to do some bridging courses in the summer because you'd have a lighter workload than full time. So if there's summer school, you might be able to do the additional 2 or 3 courses to catch up back to the full-time program. But usually there's a path to go back to full-time. Huh?
All right, sir.
Okay.
We have another question from Jeremy. Go ahead, Jeremy.
Oh yeah. So my question is, I want to go to Canada and study to be a biomedical engineer, right? So when do you recommend is the best time to apply for a citizenship? Like right after I get my bachelor's degree or while I'm doing it?
That's above my pay grade. So these gentlemen can put you in touch with somebody in the Toronto chapter who may, but I know there are different schemes in Canada to recruit skilled persons. So you can check the Canadian government website, immigration, about who they're looking for and what the typical points system is. But I don't know it in detail, but I know they do have schemes for skilled persons.
Oh, okay.
All right, thank you guys. We have around 25 students on the chat, but we also have some alumni on the call that are leaders and they hold executive positions in their field. So I'd like to invite them at this time to tell you what they do for a living, and they can start by telling you what they do for a living, and then maybe explain to you how important a college education was to their success. I'm gonna invite Egbert to start, and then afterwards, Charles, you can jump in, please.
All right, I think if I can get off mute, I can. So my name is Egbert Clark, and I work as Fraggy would say, in private industry. I was a typical student, and I look up to the bright people like Dr. McBean, who was younger, but I look up to a bunch of bright people at Cornwall, and I was one of those typical students that falls in the middle of the pack. But what happened is that the preparation that you get from Cornwall College just allows me, when I move into the US and I enter two of the best schools in the United States. I went to Berkeley for my undergrad, and then I went to University of North Carolina in Chapel Hill for my graduate work. But the foundation that was laid at Cornwall College, what Dr. McBean is talking about is nobody owes you anything. You have to have the aptitude and the attitude, and you have to really push yourself to get it. I may not have pushed as hard as I could at Cornwall, but what I did was, when you get into the American system, and you'll find out that it's a lot easier, just because you don't do everything on your one shot, which is your exams. You guys are doing CAPE. We used to do the O-levels and the A-levels. In the US system, you're graded on 3 pieces of work you turn in. You're graded on your presence in the classroom. You're graded on something else. And then the last piece of it is your final exam, which is probably worth 10 to 20% of the time. Getting the education, though, as Dr. McBean nicely stated, only created the ladder for me. Like, I'm an executive vice president for a telecommunication company that put stuff on oil rigs all over the world. I travel the world. I was looking at and something on Facebook today and talk about, what are some of these major cities that you've touched, and they put 81 cities on the asking for questions, and I think I did 64 of them, and it was only because of the aptitude and the attitude. And I became fairly successful in the North American system because people recognize talent. You get in the door, but you have to continue to perform. So as these students are sitting here and listening to some of us, and listening to Dr. McBean and the emphasis on education, is that even if you're a little late, and even if you want to change, because I was probably one of those students, it's still possible that you can do it. And the fear of investing in yourself is just a typical fear of a Jamaican in general about loans and interest rate. But if you're not investing in yourself, including if that's what your family or you need to do, then probably it's hard for someone else to make that investment. But a society in general will invest by having the opportunity for you to be in the schools. And Dr. McBean is at UWI, and he can show you some of the ropes that that some of the needy students can do. And most of us here are pretty successful, and we've been helping and will continue to help. Thanks.
Thank you, Egbert. Charles?
All right. First, I think I know most of you because I met you guys when we had the initial conversation months ago to kick off the program. I hope and trust all of you are doing well with COVID, both and then academically as well, because I know it's been tough with the transition to working virtually. So God bless you all with that and continued guidance with that. I want to address Mr. David McBean, Dr. McBean, because when I went to Cornwall College, and I found out about individuals like him, and there were some other ones. Edison, Layton, Mark, Wang, all of them border boys actually. When I talk about outstanding students, you're looking at that guy that you're looking at right there was one of the top of tops, outstanding. So I remember going to Cornwall and saying, boy, I was a baller, play for the school. And my first year actually came first in my class. Second year, I think I came second or third. So I was always a good student, but my focus was a ball at the same time. Over time, that dwindled, and all my focus was with when I get to fifth form was to leave and come to America. That was my focus, and so my family assisted me in that. I got lucky in getting a scholarship when I got here to go to school for soccer. But I will tell you that my first year playing soccer, I was on the dean's list, and no one on the team could believe that was me. They were like, no, that must be a mistake because no baller are on the dean's list. And subsequent years after that. So I say that to say that my focus was not just the ball, which I excelled in quite a bit as well, but the academics as well. And I stayed the course there and made sure that it was the priority for me. So I fell in love with computer science early. As I took my first programming class, I think probably my second year, and knew right away that I wanted to go into development. And I think it's probably one of the best decisions I made. Back then, computers weren't, and the industry wasn't where it is today. But it's like I played the lotto and played it well, because I took off in that industry. And since then, it's been no looking back for me. So I came from, and I have a mentee on the call. So I came from Paradise Row, which is right next to Cornwall. My backyard, let's look up at Cornwall where the, I think UA is over there. That was my backyard right there, the fence right there. So I go from that to really exceeding in my discipline of technology and moving up the ranks in school, in work, I mean, and getting to the highest levels in my company. So like Egbert, I'm in a company called a division of Toyota, and I'm one of the technology executives there. And I've been for 20 years in that company. And prior to that, in several other companies as VP level and other. So you can make it and you can do it because you have products of that here. None of us came up wealthy, not that I know of anyway, because I know all these guys. But as David has said, that we've done pretty well to achieve a lot and be able to afford a decent lifestyle and take care of our families and the things that we know you can do as well, because you would not have earned the scholarship if you did not have the ability to do so. So I expect much from all of you. And I listened to the conversation and the questions, but don't let some of those things stop you. Don't try to put up or let people create obstacles for you, telling you, don't take a loan, don't do this, don't do that. Do what is necessary for your success, and move those barriers out of the way and go for it. Because it's out there to achieve and you can. So that's my tidbit for today, and hopefully that helps.
Thank you, Charles. I'm going to ask Mario Birch to say something. Mario, are you there?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay. Good night, everyone. To Mr.
Good evening.
Good evening, brother. to Mr. McBean, Mr. Smart, Mr. Egbert, and the other guest speakers of this meeting. I just want to say thank you, and I was encouraged by your words. You guys helped us a lot by helping us to pick and make right decisions and ways to achieve our goals. In other words, I would like to say thank you all.
Right. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mario. Very well said, At this time, I'd like to close off and ask the president of the Cornwall College Alumni Association. Thanks for hosting and allowing us to have this talk with you, students. Mr. Philip Wallace, can you go ahead and give some closing remarks?
Yes, thanks, Robert. And once again, thanks to everyone for, well, thanks to you, first of all, for arranging this talk. Thanks to David, Dr. David McBean, otherwise called Froggy. As I'm, thanks to Charles and Egbert, and students, take note. You are hearing from some of the brightest and most successful Cornwallians, by any stretch of the imagination, by any comparison. And take note of also the life stories, right? Some of the stories will resonate. Some people have traveled some different paths, but at the bottom line is that the value of education and pursuing it aggressively is something that you would have, that we received through our early years by going to Cornwall, and it's something that we can promote in terms of a testimony with regards to the paths that we have traveled and how successful different persons can be regarding the pursuit of education. Don't keep focused, like Dr. McBean said. Really don't try to drown out the noise around you, and try also to drown out the peer group influences, because those, at least the influences which are not positive, right? And those are always going to be there, and they're always going to be tempting. But if you try to focus on the long term all the time and try to do the things which have made people successful and which have been tried and proven, then you're going to be successful. Always try to and continue to invest in yourself. I'll underline the previous comments regarding loans. Don't be afraid of taking out a loan if it is to invest in your education. Some of the fears where loans are concerned, it's because the monies were not utilized for good investment purposes, right? And so people get burdened with debt, unwanted debt, and saddled with that over a period of time. But once it's being used for investment productive purposes, then it's always going to be something which is beneficial. So again, I'd like to thank everyone for attending this talk. We hope that at least you leave here with some information that challenges your mind and can open your thoughts with regards to your education. And we are always going to be here as resources for whatever information that we can provide to assist you, to help you along the pathway. Once again, thank you all so much.
Thank you, Philip. The presenter spoke about attitude, grammar. He spoke about maintaining a good appearance, to name a few. Remember that it's not always the smartest person that succeeds, as mentioned by the presenter. Please continue to do your best at all times. And let you be your greatest critic. Aim for excellence as you always will be happy with your performance as you did your best. Set goals and plan to achieve it, no matter what everyone else is doing. A lot of times following the crowd is not necessarily the best decision. Matter of fact, most times
All right, same thing.
it's not the
A
best.
lot of times following the crowd is not necessarily the best decision.
You're right, Helen.
Hear
Yes.
that, boy?
Yes. You know? Yes. Don't always follow the crowd, you know. A lot of
That's right.
times. A lot of times it's not the best decision, you know.
That's right. I told my son that.
Set your goal and work towards achieving it. So thank you a lot for participating tonight. We really want to wish you the best of luck in your educational journey. You're already on a good start because, you know, some of you guys have scholarships and we see your grades and we know that you guys are excelling. All right. So keep up the good work and have a wonderful week.
Take care, guys.
Yeah, have a good one.
All right. Good night, guys.
Thanks for
God
having me.
bless you all.
Man, thanks, David.
God bless you all.
Bye, Miss Helen.